You know, I always like to make people feel welcome and comfortable when they're new to the channel. So Vicky, I just wanted to ask today, of like, Doctor Who, what the fuck have you done?
You see, I'm of the opinion that the Time Monster is actually the best 70s Who story. No, that's a lie. They're City of Death. But
Yeah,
it is...
You couldn't even believe it. You couldn't even finish the sentence.
It is my favorite Pertwee story because it is, to me, the ultimate pinnacle in Pertwee Who brought up to its maximum.
The most unit story to ever unit. A Time Monster video essay. We've both done some reading, we've both gone away, and we're now going to rant over episodes 3 and 4.
It's interesting because it's very much the mixture of the two settings, and they clash so very hard that it's a very fun watch for me.
Greetings.
We've started rough, and this is the story where right off the bat we've started with, I am Crisis of Poseidon, and now we've just gone straight into it. Robert Sloman isn't one for subtlety.
No. The Pertwee era has never been subtle in anything ever.
Therefore, you have the secret. You have the formula.
No! It is lost. For 5 centuries it has been lost to Atlantis.
There was nothing handed down.
Nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing save the crystal.
Starting this episode sort of being like, okay, because this is how a weekly introduction to the story. Because, starting, like, in episode 1, like, every watch through starts on that nowadays. But, like, kids in the 70s would have had to have just tuned into this, like, every week and just continue to choose to watch this.
Oh, we're starting off with Stuart here.
Stuart
here, he says he's 25.
I'd better find out about my old age pension. After all, I'll be 26 in 7 weeks' time.
Like even when he's in his normal actor mode without any of the makeup, Stuart looks like shit for 25. Is that just how people looked in the 70s? Oh, it's got his confession dial.
I mean, it is season 9. So this is the finale for season 9.
You don't think?
I'm not saying that Atlantis is the Third Doctor's confession dial, but...
Madam, what year is this? Madam, is this Atlantis? Sorry, I'm putting the Pertwee impression to bed now.
My apologies, I realize now that EastEnders is the Third Doctor's personal hell.
Yeah, that's the confession dial if it was done in the Third Doctor's era. Anyway, this is getting very silly right off the bat. I think Time Monster, because I haven't actually voiced any opinion on it yet, is a very funny, lame story. I think a lot of people would describe it as a dud. We are banned today from using the word self-parody. It's my go-to. It's not what the Time Monster is.
No.
What's happening on screen? This madness is totally earnest.
One of my favorite clips from your reviews, you described Horns of Naimon as a botched panto, as like a production that should not have continued.
No. People came in drunk. They should have cut it off just for good taste.
This isn't a botched panto. This is the ultimate panto.
Oh.
One thing that I will say did not go to plan is the Kronos effect. I read the Target novelization, gained nothing from it, except for the fact that the Kronos was meant to be fiery.
Like, they were creating a completely new mythological figure. They could have made it look like anything. In the 60s, we had Medusa stop-motion animation and stuff. We could do something really cool, but we do have a man flapping around in a chicken suit. We can't focus on one weird visual for long enough because it's throwing so many at us. This is a barrage of dumb.
Yes, yeah. Because right now we're having the Third Doctor basically just slow motion moving the Brigadier, who is just jumping up and down to try and evoke being stuck in place.
Time experiments and time problems happening for everyone who doesn't know because of this fucker. I guess the assumption is that the Doctor used his super speed and strength to pull the Brigadier out?
The one other thing I gained from the novel is that Terrence Dicks described it as basically the Doctor having a special, like, extrasensory time sense, and so, like, he could feel the...
Oh, end of the world!
Yeah.
I can feel the earth spinning underneath my feet, Joe.
Yeah, you see, Alistair, I can feel the earth spinning beneath our feet.
Stop holding my hand, Doctor. I like the panto route, but it does veer dangerously close to self-parody. I think this is a weird issue of a disgruntled writer. Robert Sloman, okay, at the best of times, he gives you stuff like Planet of Spiders, but he had to really throw this script together because he had a giant Dalek epic. Daleks in the UK completely thrown in the trash because nobody stopped to check whether they owned the rights to the Daleks. The Terry Nation estate absolutely still did. And the writing process for Time Monster is really weird. I don't know if you know this. He wrote the first 2 episodes first, then the last episode, and then lastly what we're watching now.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
It does, doesn't it?
Because this episode, part 3, is very interesting in that the Doctor and the actual heroes of the story don't do anything. They're just sitting in a cottage, waiting for the Master to actually, like, catch up with the plot, in a way.
In a way, isn't the story from this point everyone catching up with the Master? Because the Master is 2 steps ahead, and the Master is the protagonist.
In a way, it feels like everyone's waiting around for the point where the Master's, like, ready to engage his next plot point, which is...
Got you. The D&D campaign has hit a bit of a slump.
Yes, yes.
And also they got bored of the campaign, so they're just going to Atlantis and gonna run around some Minotaur mazes.
Oh.
Of course.
And here we can see the hair of Atlantis.
Well, an inspired choice.
It's a very special choice. It's not the biggest hair choice the Pertwee era ever made. That's Monster Apelladon with the 2-tone afros.
My favourite Who hairstyle is the Leisure Hive? I like to think that around all these like drab military uniforms, Joe and 3 actually got along in the first place because they both have style. The wardrobes, that's styling on everybody else in this era.
How about a sandwich? Only marmalade, I'm afraid.
I'd love one, please.
This isn't a picnic. One moment you're talking about the entire universe blowing up, and the next you're going on about tea.
Well, yes, you see, we're in a filler episode, my dear Brigadier.
The main writer who was credited is Robert Sloman, but with all of his scripts, Barry Letts was an uncredited co-writer. Yeah, one of my ideas was that Barry Letts at this point was probably already thinking up the 3 Doctors and the fact that, eventually the Doctor would be totally free from Earth.
We've done 2 seasons of Delgado. We're probably wrapping up here.
Exactly. We have done 3 seasons of this Earthbound stuff. Yeah, it's going to be the 10th anniversary next year. We should,
give him his freedom as a meta birthday present. They always do that at anniversaries.
Once the Doctor isn't bound to Earth, what's the point of the Unit family? Before Unit dissolves, which it eventually did in the Baker years, like, giving this ultimate story, which every single member of the principal cast has moments to shine in. 2
of the major cliffhangers happen to Yates and Benton. So that's where, the stakes of the story are for this first half.
In episode 2, Benton is allowed to outsmart the Master.
Delgado's crap in this in general. Nothing goes his way. It is kind of like showing that the Master is not really a credible threat at this point.
He is essentially, He's essentially the 6th member of the Unit family.
He's Team Rocket at this point, yeah.
Here we go. 3 is assembling a modern art piece right now.
People use this moment to slam on the story, and even though I'm not this story's biggest fan, the Brigadier's the straight man. He's laughing at it. I think it's amazing that the Master has spent like 3 episodes setting up this very complicated plan, and the Doctor's just picked up some junk he found in his pockets and beaten him in like 5 seconds.
That is such a Pertwee thing to do, though.
I wonder if any other Doctor could even get away with doing this. That's how, like, essentially Pertweean.
McCoy could, but he just used straight up magic.
Yeah. So we do this, and then we zoom in on the monk, and the story is so self-impressed with itself for this. It's such a funny shot. And the fact that we've stopped for mid-story marmalade sandwiches is not only something we need to do more often,
I know. It's so
also
bad.
the very problem I take with this cereal. It's delaying, it's padding so blatantly, I think it's flipping off the audience. Like, okay, what's happened in this story, in this part? We've got problems happening with time, but the Doctor in this conversation has said like 3 times, Brigadier, we are literally stuck, we have slowed down, and then he talks about delaying tactics.
Delaying tactics, Brigadier.
Robert, we know.
Because your time had slowed down too.
I think this is the most blatant example of filler in Classic Who, but it's done so mischievously, probably, I don't actually have a problem with it.
The entire first half of this episode is the Doctor setting up that tea leaf thing, and then it just instantly gets blown up by the Master. This cast is so lovable and so enjoyable that giving it so much space and so much to just play around and have fun is a joy to watch in and of itself. Like, the lack of content becomes content because everyone is so fun.
It's what we always wanted with this dynamic was just go to the pub. Let's just see their like after hours conversations. The whole world is at stake. It's a massive stake story, this one. But everyone is just chumming around, drinking tea and having marmalade sandwiches, which is very, very Paddington Bear and very, very cute. Unit era fans, I don't think the actual plot matters all that much.
Yeah,
like,
and
this isn't a full package. This is just fun things, like, oh, it's a man on a horse. The unit years can do no wrong if they've already won you over. Not only was that a botched stunt massively, the cars were going at like 70 miles per hour on these country lanes. He then sued the BBC for years and years afterwards. And you know what? It was worth it for that weird fucking shot. When I think of the Time Monster, I think of this bizarre stuff of a unit fighting like a bunch of people displaced from the past. Which, by the way, that's just war games. That's war games again.
the Master just has this watch where he can transpose things in time instantly, and it's never been brought up before, and will never be brought up again in the story. But it's just like, it's the Master. Of course he has this.
I think the unit years are all variations on the same formula, of course. So as a result, when you get to this stage and you've done it a dozen times already, it's an excuse for fun stuff to happen. So how mad can you get at it? I think it's crazy this episode shows you Kronos in his entirety being a flapping man. And then we haven't seen him all episode. He's just still flapping around in that little lab. They had carte blanche. They could do whatever they wanted with Kronos. I think the design does look good.
The design is great, and even the costume is. It's just how do you move in that?
Yes, and how do you shoot that? Watching
through
it,
a window.
it's awful. As much of a racket as it is, I do kind of wish this was Delgado's last one, probably. I know there's good outings after, but it beats Frontier in Space, surely.
I feel like this is, again, this is the Master's plan taken to, like, its maximum of arrogance of being like, I can literally tame the god of time. And, and he's just fumbling all the way through because that's who the Master is.
It's also because, more than usual, he's got protagonist obstacles and he's got main character duties. So it makes sense that he's going to have a harder time of it than the Doctor is.
You know, Doctor, you're quite the most infuriating man I've ever met.
Have you ever noticed how, like, I know they're contacting higher powers, and shocker, the Master's contacting Satan. The Time Lords are so often outclassed in the 70s. In the Pertwee years, Pertwee simply becomes the capable special Time Lord overnight. There's a line later on in episode 5 where it's like, you're like a little child. And it's like, oh, this is the most revered Time Lord criminal ever. But he's being constantly clowned on by a bunch of hair metal Atlanteans. Who do seem to be human. They are human, right?
Yes, they are human.
Crazy.
No one actually respects him. He has really, outside of his technology and hypnotism powers, he doesn't actually have any, like, power.
He's just sexy. That's his redeeming quality. Actually, I would say his plan in this is to flirt his way around. First the unit base and then Atlantis. That's an integral part of his plan in this one. I think if you have both of them in a scene and no one knows which one's which, the Master should be the more socially capable and likeable one to the unassuming eye. And it should be the Doctor playing catch-up. But yeah, we've come away from that idea a bit.
I hope, yeah, that the next Master we have does, sort of go back to that.
Doctor,
Yeah?
TARDIS looks different.
Oh, this is but a redecoration, that's all.
Just, I adore this TARDIS set so much.
The one that the cast and crew even took down after one serial? It's disco. I'll give you that. Maybe a bit disco.
Very disco.
Off we go to the next adventure, I guess. I have to say, before it goes, that device looks like a peen.
It indeed does.
There's no avoiding it. It's a dick and balls, and I'm sorry to use this crass language, Vicky, but it's a dick and balls. He's holding a dick and balls. Why did nobody on set realize this?
This is the same show that allowed Creature from the Pit to happen. I just don't think anyone thought about things.
This lady has the gall to criticize Creature from the Pit, but then brings Time Monster. Anyway. Okay, the thing is with Atlantis, it's a real whiplash change of location. But I do admire when Classic Coos is honest, like, we're bored now. Next bit, next one. I like Doctor Who's variety hour stuff, so that's right up my streets. Even with the Atlantis add-on, the DLC of parts 5 and 6, I think this is still one of the most dubiously padded stories ever.
Uh-oh, what's this?
He's Logopolising, my dear. I only watched episode 3 in preparation. I don't know what happens in this part from memory. Do they get to Atlantis, or is it just TARDIS tag?
This is just TARDIS nonsense, which is which I love because I have ever since I was a child adored episodes that are TARDIS bound because it really shows so much
Yeah, no, do continue. You're digging yourself a big hole here, Vic. All those fan favourite classics, like Invasion of Time and Time Lash? Yeah, I love TARDIS-bound stories.
And here we have Benton trying to kill the Master, just trying to end the plot early. Baby Benton is what convinced me that this was actually one of the best of 70s Who. Because, it's such an absolutely bonkers idea that they do live on air.
And then they do laugh at it at the end. Yeah, they know it's funny. Yeah.
Exactly. They had their apartheid metaphor, this season already. So they can just have, for this final one, this can just be this light, breezy, fun adventure where,
It's like the last day of term at school.
Exactly.
That's the way to put Robert Sloman stories. This is just a personal thing here. I find being reverted in age really scary. It happens in a couple movies that I like, and I just think it's a weird, unique kind of body horror. It's just more life, isn't it? When Benton's turned into a baby, he just gets 30 extra years of life.
He gets to come back, recast for the 60th. Looking exactly the same.
Well, unfortunately, no. Do you want a really non-fun fact? Do you want maybe the least fun fact?
Which story kills Benton? Which story?
No, it's actually really dark, and not fun. And the 1-year-old playing baby Benton didn't make it past the age of 1.
Oh, no!
I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Does that affect you? Does that affect the story for you? Have I ruined the Time Monster?
It makes me love it more because I have to, for their legacy, I have to now say that this is actually better than City of Death, just for them.
That was my favourite Benton actor, in fairness, so let's all just give a moment of salute, a moment of silence. That baby's one purpose on this fucking earth is that gag.
One purpose, and I think this was back in 2008. Wasn't this voted the worst Doctor Who story by Doctor Who magazine?
What? Was it? I believe it.
Yeah, I know it was near the bottom. And let
Oh
me see.
dear. Oh dear. If it's 2007, 2008, I do still think the Twin Dilemma would have held that spot. Because that's when I followed Doctor Who magazine. But I know for a fact it's in the bottom 3. And to be honest, what's on screen right now isn't making a good case to get it out of there. I do like it.
What are you? You have Roger Delgado on there. It makes an incredible case that this should be regarded as one of the best stories.
It's hard to find things to say about him that aren't just he's incredibly charismatic and sexy. But he is incredibly charismatic and sexy, and he does have a capability to flirt with anybody in any scene with him.
Exactly.
Whether he's meant to or not. It's later with, I don't think she's in this part because she lives on Atlantis, but
Ingrid
Pitt. Oh, yes, Scream Queen, Hammer Horror.
Countess Dracula herself, who starred with Pertwee in one of my favorite films, House That Dripped Blood.
That's excellent. What a good film recommendation. I'm watching that like now. Turn the track off.
This has become a House That Dripped Blood reaction video.
Very subversive, yeah. But please, everyone, I understand it might be difficult to find your copy of The House That Dripped Blood, but it is important if you want to continue this track. Yeah, silly. Ingrid Pitt, has to be said, very at home in Doctor Who. Like, it's so obvious, isn't it?
She is fantastic in this story. She plays the wife of the king of Atlantis absolutely perfectly. Then you remember that her other story is Warriors of the Deep, and you're like, oh, Ingrid, how did you get stuck in both of these? Like,
I do like to forget that fact, actually. It's not her first duff roll, let's just say that. God bless LSD.
God bless all the drugs that Barry Letts was on when he came up with this story.
It's not an exaggeration either. How potent do you think the tabs were in 72? Okay, so Benton being a baby is funny, but there is a childhood part of my brain that's like, no, I don't like that. Actually, I don't like that. That's scary. My biggest fear, really, Vicky, is having to do all this life bollocks all over again. Deep down, that is the worst thing I can imagine.
This story really highlights, again, how much Joe has grown as a companion.
Oh, yeah, we haven't mentioned her once.
Which is such a shame because Joe really is the key to making this era so amazing. Like, her arc is just, I think it is the best companion arc we have ever gotten.
That's totally fair. Honestly, if push comes to shove, you can take out Yates, you can take out the Master, you could probably even survive without the Brigadier. Take Joe out, and I do struggle caring about Unit at all. Even in the Sarah times, and the Sarah times. The before times with Sarah Jane. When do we get to Atlantis, man? I'm looking at my watch.
We get to our next episode.
Oh, joy. The one we're not watching. Awesome. That's the thing, though. Atlantis is hyped for 5 fucking episodes. But then it still feels like a sudden visit when we get there. It still gives me whiplash. It's like, and now with him, he's here. You know, I had a mentor once, Joe, and in fact, he lives on Earth in the same year that we do, and we just don't go and visit him. Really, really rude, actually, now I come to think of it, Joe. For me, there's 2 big moments. It's when Joe sort of, like, just throws herself at the Master, just like, you know what, it's the exact moment in the season where she's done with the Master's shit. She snapped. My homework was trying to work out what the fuck Robert Sloman meant when he said the story was about the Gaia theory. For anyone who does not know Gaia theory, it was a scientific concept coming out at the time. It was brand new in the 70s. That is, every single living thing on a planet, every organism is part of the planet's functions. And you're like, okay, fair enough. It's been massively disputed. Where the fuck does that fit into the Time Monster?
Yeah, where does that fit in here?
I've tried so hard to work it out.
Yeah, like, if anything, like, the Green Death is more of a Gaia theory story than this.
We can't know. We only get what we're given, and what we were given is a lot of funny, trashy fun.
Yes. This is the most intentionally trashy fun Doctor Who has ever gone into. The Time Monster knows exactly what it is, and it enjoys itself. It's allowed to exist, and it's happy for that.
And nobody stepped in and stopped it from existing, which is really the main thing I have to say about it. I think if I had to pick a word, it would be antagonistic. And my closing thought here is, like, not to process shame. Writers all write things in very different ways, but I am convinced Robert Sloman was like, fuck it, you know what you're getting from me. My Dalek script's in the bin currently. 3 episodes of padding. It's so evidently padding. This is the same man who gave us the infamous Planet of Spiders car chase, so I think that says it all. Yeah, it's got all of Planet of Spiders' self-indulgence, a knowing self-indulgence. This is just the excess, and not much else, which, you know what? Sure.
It's never quite going to be this, like, large sitcom again, because, you know, Doctor Who keeps changing, but, like, it is a particular moment that I quite enjoy.
I was thinking the exact same thing all the way through. It's a cult TV show realising that they're in a bit of a golden age. And just, we should enjoy it whilst we're here. And that's Time Monster, yeah. Bye!
Go listen to my music. It has nothing to do with any of this, but go do that.
No, in fairness, it's very synthy. It's very classic Doctor Who. Go check out Vicky's SoundCloud. Me and her are going to be working together very, very soon.
Because it's going to be amazing.
Hope you enjoyed. Sorry for telling you about the dead baby. In the end, Benton got better.
Would somebody please mind telling me exactly what's happening around here?
Wowee, Doctor! What a cock, Doctor! Yes, Joe. It seems the real Time Monster was among us all along.